Look at this buffoonery. That was my chair. Stupidone. Hi, welcome back. Happy 2024! I almost said 2023. Feels kind of surreal, honestly. Today I wanted to do a good old chit chat videos. I usually do this at least once a year in my mother tongue, which is Italian, while I knit, crochet, do stuff. I did one while I was painting, that was really cool, but today I do have some projects that I could show you, but I'm lazy and my computer is not working, so I thought we could reminiscence, if you will, about my 2023 year in reading and what are my reading goals for 2024. I saw Leonie from, I think, the book Leo do this while updating her Notion. I don't use Notion, but I do have 300,000 notes on my phone app. I thought we could do that. Firstly, last year I read more than 130 books, which is the year that I've read the most in total. Honestly, thinking about it, I've read some pretty good books, but I've read also some really mediocre books. I think last year was the year of truly mediocre books. I read some books that I'm really proud of, like finishing, like I have them. They're here! I finished the Mirror Visitor series. I've had this book for a long while, like 5 years, and I finished the whole series in the span of a month once I started it, and I was very proud of that. And I also finished a lot of other series because it was a weird year. I don't have a lot of 5 stars, I don't have a lot of 1 stars, but I have a lot of 3 stars, which I think is worse. I love giving books really high or really low rating because it means that I have stuff to tell you about them. Even rants, I think they're super fun, especially if the book was plain bad and I have things to explain and I get really heated. I love that. I also love talking about books that I love. This year I started rereading one of my favorite series of all time, which I also have. It's right here! I am, of course, talking about Heaven and Official Blessing. I have hooked one of my friends to this, and she said that she is in love with it, and it's like drugs. Yes, it is. Yes, indeed it is. I've read the first 5 volumes. I'm reading them as I buy them because they have only been translated into English. This year, maybe the first volume is going to come out in my mother tongue, and I'm really proud of that. We did that. We, as fans, requested it. Honestly, unparalleled. I don't think there's anything that hits this series. So my first goal of the year, ding ding ding, is going to be, firstly, read more books that I want to read. I don't want to be influenced anymore by the internet because all of the books that I read for challenges that were... Okay, I don't live near an airport. All of the books that I read because the internet suggested it to me and I was maybe on the fence about it, I hated. I usually see books on the internet and I can gauge by the cover and the synopsis if I'm going to like them or not. So books that I think I'm going to really like, I usually love, and books that I may be on the fence about, I usually hate. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to read books that I love. If I'm going to be reading books because of the hype, I want to be conscious of the way that I'm reading them. Number 2 is reread more comfort reads. I want to finish this reread so badly, and I also want to reread one of my favorite books of all time, which is House Moving Castle. It's I've reread that book 3 years in a row, and 3 years in a row I've given it 5 stars, and it's been one of the most wonderful experience, be it audiobook, be it in English, in Italian, written. It was all wonderful. I also want to read the Off of the Game series because it's going to come out in Italian this year. That's going to be a doozy to explain this series to a 13-year-old that maybe shouldn't read it because it's a very adult series. It's going to be fun. I also, and this is the 3rd point, want to read more weird literature. This was the year that I read a lot of weird stuff, a lot of weird meta-narrative, and that's a word that I've discovered through reading Homestuck. Yes. Alice, why have you done this to yourself? I'll show you why. If you are somewhat not on the know, how to explain? Homestuck is a web series, but it's also like both in written, video game, and like just picture format. And it was posted by Andrew Hussey on MS Paint Adventures. And then it became a whole cultural phenomenon in the first 2010s. Now there's a Homestuck 2 that I still haven't read, but I read the bulk of Homestuck in a month. It's almost 8,000 pages, and I read it in a month, and I was hooked on it like it was, I don't know what kind of drug, but it was drugs. I was so hooked. So much so that I'm knitting a jumper with the face of my favorite character. It's not the best, but I love it. What is happening? I think he saw another dog. That was definitely one of the weirdest things that I've ever read, both in the like context of the story and in the media that they chose to like tell the story with. Like, one time I was playing a video game with the characters, and one time I was reading pages of pirate fanfiction. Why I read Homestuck? Because it inspired the Gideon Dunin Philoctum series, and I am hooked on the series. This year, Alactu Duninth, the last book, is going to come out, and I think that goes into like the weird literature trope. I really want to read that and understand what I'm reading. I think weird literature told in weird ways, the story is weird, the characters are weird. It's my thing. I really want to read like maybe nicher things, maybe things that don't interest anybody but me, but I think they're going to make me happy, and I want reading to be a joyous experience for me. 4, I want to read more like Chinese web novels. As you saw, one of my favorite series of all time is Have an Official Blessing, but also like Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. These are both Chinese web novel written by the same person, Mo Shang-Tu Shuo. I've also read her other series called Scam Villains of Saving System. It's not my favorite, it's still really good. This year, however, I dedicated another whole month to reading the whole entire series of The Husky and His White Cat Shizun. I think they translated it like that. It was a roller coaster. It was very good. Not like pacing wise, not as consistent as Have an Official Blessing, but still like why are there airplanes? I was talking about Chinese web novels. It was very, very good. And I want to branch out. I want to read more like sapphic Chinese web novels because I think there are a lot of really, really good ones. I want to read more like sci-fi ones. There are steampunk ones that they told me that are fantastic, and I really want to read those. Another thing that I want to do this year, 5. Lucky number 5. I want to finish series. I'm not one to start a lot of series and then just leave them be. I usually wait for the series to end and then binge all the books. But I've started a series that are like en cours. So the last book hasn't come out yet and I'm still waiting for it. Just like the Atlas 6, you know, third book in this trilogy comes out today. I want to finish more series and I want to do that with you. So I want to do the whole video like finishing all of the series that I'm in the middle of with you. I'm going to do, I think, a series. I think I saw Alexa Ray do this and I love her videos. She's adorable. I really want to do that, but in the flavor of like the series that I am in the middle of, and they are yeah. I also, and this may seem contradictory, I want to do more reading challenges. I think they're so fun, and I know that I've just told you that I don't want to read books because of the internet. I want to construct reading challenges around the books that I want to read. The next books that I want to read, for example, are Checkmate and In Memoriam. They are 2 of my like most anticipated releases for last year, and I want to do a video in which I read all the most anticipated releases that I missed or that I don't want to read because then I don't have any more of that book, just like Checkmate. But Ailey Hazelwood is going to come out with 2 new books this year, so 7, and I think this is going to be the last point because new resolutions are hard enough to like keep up with. I want to read more indie books. I've started this year reading, I think, 4 or 5 indie books in 4 or 5 days. I don't know what came over me. They were all queer, all independently published or like self-published, and I've discovered, I think, one of my new favorite series, not of all time, but I think I don't know, in general this year, and it's the Prince of the Sorrows series. It's not perfect. I know it's not perfect. I binged the first 2 books in 2 days, 1 day each. Like, I don't know what came over me, but they were good to me. They're not perfectly done in like writing wise. No, I think the writing is very good, but like pacing wise, I don't think it's perfect. I do, however, love these characters to death. Like, Saffron is in my heart, my beloved. It's a queer fae, like folklore story. So you have like the fae and the fairies, but it's like a Cruel Prince style, not like Sarah J. Maas style. And it's a queer story between the human half of the changeling, you know, exchange when a fae exchange a fairy child with a human one. So Saffron is the human counterpart in the fairy world, and he falls in love with one of the princes of the fairies. It's really gruesome. It's very violent. It's also romantic as fuck, and I really liked it. I also read The Last Courtesan of Olympus, which I thought was going to be like a trashy, you know, smutty novella, and it's the most wonderfully sensual, erotic novella. It's almost entirely about sex, but it's a romantic, sensual sex, and the writing is so beautiful and so interwoven with Greek and Roman mythology. It was incredibly good. And I also read another independently published book that I really didn't like, but I don't want to mention yet because I'm going to do a whole video about that. So yeah, I want to read more indie books. I just want to read more queer goodness because I think independently published books are usually by queer authors that are struggling, of course, in their craft, and I want to help them if I have the means, because I am broke myself. These are my New Year's resolution. I am sorry that this video it's kind of low-key for what I'm used to. Next week is going to be a reading vlog I am very proud of if I can edit it the way that I want. So this is the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, do, you know, the YouTube thing. That makes me really happy. Especially your comments are so sweet. I read them all. And if you want to check my socials, like if you want to connect with me, I have them down below. I'm most active on TikTok, both languages, bilingual, this brain. That was not English. But yeah, I'll see you next time with a reading vlog. Goodbye!